The Democrats attempted to pack the existing Supreme Court already. In 2016, Obama had there was a situation where a SCOTUS ended up deleted. He was found at a hunting cabin with a pillow nearby over his face. And the emails, remember the emails from hell, the Hillary Clinton Podesta emails? One of John Podesta's emails was about wet works. Now, if you know anything about wet works and wet operations, he in this email mentioned that there was going to be wet works tonight, and that was the same night that the SCOTUS there ended up passing away. And is that a coincidence? I mean, if that's the case, that would be the mother of all coincidences. So I can't even. The implications are so dire and nefarious. I can't even connect the dots for you. But what I will say is this: emails came out of things that from the DNC headquarters, things that Podesta was saying. He talked about wet works the night that SCOTUS died, and then it was other things that Hillary Clinton said. And then and these emails got on WikiLeaks. So then that was when the push to nab Julian Assange happened. Hillary Clinton was well known. She was head of the State Department. She was known for talking about ops of getting him picked up and extracted out of the embassy, the El Salvadorian embassy that he was in London. They definitely did not like these emails getting out, and it was determined Julian Assange will not say yes or no to this, but it was determined that a DNC staffer named Seth Rich was the one that took a hard drive, stuck it into the DNC headquarters, and then gave this to WikiLeaks. Of course, Seth Rich was a patriot. He was a Bernie bro and was disgusted with what he was seeing at the DNC, how they were buying Bernie off and using the Clinton Foundation to buy the DNC and then move with Hillary Clinton. And he did this thing. And turned out it was one of the biggest patriotic acts that somebody could do. And sadly, he ultimately paid with his life. He was walking down the street in Washington, coming back from having a few drinks at a bar, and he was deleted. And it wasn't robbed, just deleted. And intelligence agencies have come out and said that, yes, that was MS-13 that made the hit. And yes, there was a couple of MS-13 gang members that were found later a mile or so away that were also deleted. So it looks like they tried to, and Antonin Scalia was very Second Amendment rights, and that is a big problem for the deep state. We are able to defend ourselves right now, and they absolutely hate it. That's why these mass shootings keep happening right during these key times, like just recently with the last Supreme Court, one of the last Supreme Court decisions, and on to the break of dawn, sadly. Somebody there, and that's when, just before the 2016 election, these emails popped out. Comey would not investigate them, but he wouldn't stop them from being talked about and released either. All kinds of things happened, and that's when another Russian collusion thing came out where Clapper, I hope he's got the Clapper, and all of the intelligence agencies people. He's a Muslim, by the way. That started saying that these emails were released by the Russians. They never ever talked about the veracity, how these were either not true or true. They wouldn't even touch that because they knew that would be a big problem for them. So they just said that the Russians had released them to help Donald Trump, and then that's when they started to investigate Trump and started to steer known Russian people into his orbit. So that is all that's going on. So then what happened is in 2016, Barack Obama tried to quickly put in a Supreme Court justice, and that's when the tarmac meeting, that's when what's her name was going to get her payment. Her name escapes me right now. She was going to get her payment for looking the other way for these emails and everything like that, the Attorney General. But then the Republicans blocked it. And I think just because they knew the fix was in, they dropped it and just left the seat open until Hillary got in. And then Hillary did not get in, and they were totally caught off guard and stunned and very terrified now because they saw what was going on. So that's another thing about this whole thing is one of those seats was open when the election between Trump and Hillary came in. And they just let it go because they knew the fix was in. And Trump slips in, puts in another justice. So then they tried to keep Ruth Ginsburg in, even though she'd gotten pancreatic cancer twice, she still survived. Pancreatic cancer has like a 95% pass away rate. And see, she somehow beat it twice. She was obviously a vegetable herself. She was passed out. She was so slumped over, so hunchbacked that her head was in her lap. Whenever she'd sit in these chairs, they were writing decisions for her. It was very, very horrible. They were keeping her alive with drugs that aren't even available to the U.S. public. Intelligence agencies came out and said that. And so there you go. That's what was going on with that. So then after that, Trump went and put Kavanaugh in, and they were freaking out. They started to make all the moves to totally block that thing. They brought in a CIA asset, Kathy Blasey or whatever her name is. And she started making up all these salacious lies about how Brett Kavanaugh, dosed her, so many years ago, but she can't remember this and she can't remember that. And this was wrong and that was wrong. And they made all kinds of moves to stop Brett Kavanaugh. So what I'm talking about is them trying to pack the Supreme Court that way. And it was stopped because the intelligence operatives and Donald Trump knew what they were doing and put up blockages to do it, to stop them. And then the last Supreme Court justice got put in. So now they're all pissed off. Now they hate it. Now they're screaming and hollering. But really, it's like being a parent. With liberals, it's like being a parent. Parents know what's best for their kids. The kids will scream and holler and cry because they don't understand. They're not intelligent enough to know that these things are being done in their best interest. And that's kind of how I feel right now. All of these children crying, you tell a child something and they'll they don't understand that it's true or not. They don't understand that they're being used, and they just regurgitate what they've been told, and that's what's going on with this. If they had the mental ability and acuity or weren't so brainwashed, they would be able to look around and actually check into these things and digest it. But they get a soundbite and boom, they run with it and go crazy with it and get out in the street. It's quite sad. So, you tell them that they're going to lose their womanly rights to be able to kill babies and they freak out. Instead of, and that's another point too, instead of just saying, hey ladies, let's just be more responsible and not be having children out of wedlock or whatever. For some reason, that never comes up. The psyop, the propagandized of these women is so strong that instead of saying, hey, let's talk about ways to not be having illegitimate, unwanted children everywhere, instead of talking about that, we're talking about their right to murder children en masse, sadly. And that's what I'm talking about with this liberal thing. The talks should be, how do we not have children out of wedlock? I'm over a half century old. I've never had any children because I don't want any. And I have my own birth control methods. but anyway, we'll get into that. But women, be more responsible. Don't have unwanted, illegitimate children everywhere. That shows the propaganda. Think about that. Why not? Why aren't we talking about that? Why isn't that a thing instead of just murdering unwanted children? It's a crazy world we live in. So Doug in Exile, I absolutely love this guy. I've been sent this video. He kind of breaks it down for us for what the Supreme Court justices are doing. And I suspect that this is all happening toward the end of Joe Biden's presidency. This isn't an accident. I think this is happening right now while they are so busy with so many other scandals that they can't put up a big defense against what the Supreme Court justices are doing right now. Think about that. Think about that for a second. The timing of all of this. So we're gonna watch a video by Doug in Exile where he talks about the good that they're doing with these judgments. Here we go.
I didn't fully communicate the impact of Chevron last time we talked about it. So I have a little more detail to fill in. Oh, it's a Supreme Court case that probably affects all of us on the day-to-day even more than the Trump election stuff. Because this is about that fourth branch of government, the unelected experts that come in and affect all of us. That is, if you're in trucking, if you've ever had to deal with OSHA, if you've ever had to deal with COVID vaccines, we're going to get into all of the impact on how we just gutted the state with this one Supreme Court case where we won, called Chevron. Welcome to Doug in Exile. This is where the happy patriots are. I bring you 3-4 videos a day and just bring the most important stuff that I think we need to be thinking about, talking about, really regarding the election and getting Trump elected. And of course, subscribe. Please join us. Here's Gianna. Great post. The FDA, Food and Drug Administration, was busted because a secretary created literally 1,900 policies that were implemented as law. All 1,900 of the policies were removed. So there were, I think, 300,000 policies that ended up being removed over this one Supreme Court case. Just think of all the policies. And the most dangerous part was there was no recourse. In other words, they weren't held accountable by our normal jury and judge court system. And that's what Clarence Thomas in his statements were trying to push back on and say, these things need to be handled in a federal court. No, you cannot defer to the Chevron decision anymore. And that's the way it's been for 40 years. Now we're going to get, this is the actual fisherman who brought the case. Okay. This is Spike Cohen on Twitter. For those who don't understand what the Chevron defense is and why SCOTUS ended it, here's the long and short of it. A family fishing company, Loper Bright Enterprises, was being driven out of business because they couldn't afford the $700 per day they were being charged by the National Marine Fisheries Service to monitor their company. The thing is, the federal law doesn't authorize the National Marine Fishing Services to charge businesses for it. So the law didn't make them pass a law and say, hey, fishing boats are going to have to pay this, and we would have recourse for that because we would have lawmakers and people we could vote out of office. No, they just decided to start doing it in 2013. So imagine that. This is the National Marine Fisheries Service deciding that they should get $700 per day per fishing boat to have one of their experts on it. And then they make it mandatory. That's what Chevron allowed them to do. Okay. Now you're starting to see what can happen. And guys, this can happen everywhere. This can happen with every kind of safety issue. This can happen with environmentalism. If they can just go, you know what? If you're going to build in this area, we decided the Delta smelt was in danger. We decided this animal that's endangered. You have to pay this fine. You have to you have to offset this carbon footprint. If you don't use this filter on your car, catalytic converters and stuff, they can just start. So this affects every one of our lives every day. And now the authority is gone. That deep state, the fourth state, is gone. Why did they think they could get away with just charging people without any legal authorization? Because in 1984, in the Chevron decision, the Supreme Court decided that regulatory agencies were the, quote, experts in the field. And the courts could just defer to their interpretation of the law, relying on unelected experts. Bad decision, very bad. Came back to really bite us. And you might even say, you know what? I'm happy that we have cleaner air. Fine, you can get your cleaner air, but you can't do it illegally. This isn't how you do it. America won't let you do it. So for the past 40 years, federal agencies have been able to interpret laws to mean whatever they want, and the courts just had to go with it. It was called the Chevron defense, and it put bureaucrats in charge of the entire country. It's how the OSHA was able to decide that everyone who worked for a large company had to get the jab or be fired. So this actually did go into medical practices. My daughter, who just graduated as a nurse and starting her job in nursing field, had to get the jab to stay in school. No law gave them the authority. They just made it up. That's why you and I never voted on it. It was never a vote. It just came top down. Everyone will do it. The schools will do it. The unions will do it. It's how the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, the ATF, was able to decide that a piece of plastic, the bump stock, was a, quote, machine gun. And they could just start shutting you down. That was all also not voted on. Now, it's how the NCRS was able to decide what a small puddle was, quote, a protected wetland. So that affected all building. They would find small puddles, say this is a wetland. This is the amount of fine that you have to pay, or these are the amount of experts you have to have, or the amount of lawyers you have to have on your project you have to pay for that are our environmentalist lawyers. So that's the worst thing, is they got to find people whatever they want and have them pay their own side what they wanted. It's how out of control agencies have been able to create rules out of thin air and force you to comply. And the courts had to simply defer to them because they were the experts. Imagine if your local police could just arrest you for any reason and no judge or jury was allowed to determine if you'd actually committed a crime or not. It was just off to jail you go. Or in this case, this is the fine you have to pay. That's what the Chevron deference was. It was not only blatantly unconstitutional, it caused immeasurable harm to everyone. Thankfully, now it's gone. We haven't been able to feel the effects of this decision in the courts. It will be used for years to come to roll back federal agencies, and we'll all be better for it. And that's why politicians and corporate media are freaking out about it, saying your air is going to be polluted. You're going to die with guns. Now, here's the head of the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, when she was going, are we going to shut down the football league? Does that affect you? You know, what you want to watch for football? Are we going to shut them down over COVID? Listen to how cavalier she is on her decision. This is not science, by the way. This is a lady going, should we shut them down or not?
Probably the person I called most was the Secretary of Health and Human Services in Massachusetts. She worked for a Republican governor but you know, when she was like, are you going to let them have professional football? And I was like, nope. And she's like, okay, neither are we. So
neither are we. Shut it down. Shut down professional football. Are you going to? No? Okay, neither are we. Just look at that. It's like they have all the power. They didn't have to answer to anyone. That's all there is. It doesn't matter what you think of COVID. You might totally believe everything. I'm fine with that. But you will understand that the way that they decided this is illegal in America.
You know, it was like conversations like that. So, or I'd be like, so when are you going to think about lightening up a mess? They're like, next Monday. I'm like, okay, next Monday.
Yeah, when are we going to lighten up on all this science? And they're like, next Monday, we're going to roll out some new science. I just like how, meanwhile, you know, just think of a single mom, you know, with 3 kids trying to keep her kids in school. They have it shut down. They're at home. They have masking mandates. or you're a small business owner, that lady on that phone is the one dictating everything you're going to do. And there's no recourse. That's the only thing I'm saying. There should be a jury. There should be a trial. There should be laws passed. Now, here's the Duke of Milan on Twitter. This obliterates the Department of Defense vaccine mandate. So for the past 40 years, federal agencies have been able to interpret laws to mean whatever they want, and the courts just had to go with it. It was called Chevron deference, and it put bureaucracies in charge of the economy. It's how OSHA was able to decide that you had to get the jab. That was how it was done. It was done through the Chevron deference, and now it's gone, guys. That's the impact. This is probably the one Supreme Court case.
He's awesome. He's awesome. So instead of looking this stuff up and realizing that this is good for people, the Supreme Court, this jump, it's, oh God. He made some very good points. Unelected fourth part of government. You know, you got the legislative, executive, and judicial branches, and then you've got the corporation, the corporate branch of the government. When they did this in the 80s, they created a corporate branch of the government. It got to the point where they were the ones that made the decisions, and the courts would just agree with that because of their expertise. How effed up and brave new world is that? Ugh. Oh my God. So you had companies making the laws. You know, when I do these things, I take notes. So he showcased a farmer, a fisherman that brought this case, but it has implications for farmers. I've been seeing that states are making up taxes on people, you know, so only just the big growing food companies will be able to survive. They're making taxes out of nowhere to destroy small farmers, again, effing with the food supply. We see for the last few years an attempt to destroy the food supply. Chicken houses have been set on fire. We're starting to think that some of that is direct energy weapons. We're seeing heads of, you know, at first when the chicken houses were catching on fire, like a lot of them, like in every state, like maybe hundreds of them were catching on fire, I figured that there was some arsonists running around. But then when heads of cattle started dying en masse, hundreds at a time, I then thought that they were maybe poisoned in the water or something like that. But Redacted had a really fantastic episode where they showcased some cows that have been blasted by something. They lost their eyesight. Something happened to where their retinas were burned. So the food supply chain is being messed with. Weird accidents are happening where trains are being derailed into the Ohio River. Ships are just crashing into bridges and disrupting one of the, if not the major ports of the United States. And because Biden is a Chinese agent, he's not looking into it. You see who benefits from all of this is China. China's making some scary moves. They're making islands all in the South China Sea there because there's oil there. They've made 7 military installations out of nothing in that area, and they are trying to push everybody out from being able to go in there. Joe Biden has taken bribes from the Chinese, so has Hillary Clinton. So you see that these Supreme Court justice decisions are actually good. And he talked about the ATF bump stock thing, where the ATF made a rule that they can't do it because they are the agency who's the experts in this field. Yeah, but that's political. You know, if you don't want people defending themselves, what are you going to do? You're not going to say, hey, we don't want people defending themselves, we're going to take their rights away. You make up rules as to why they can't get bullets, have magazines, have this or that on their weapon, blah, blah, blah. So there you go. You know, and then the CDC operator, I was just calling around to see if we should not have business and this, that, and the other. And I would call them and ask them when the new science was coming out. Oh, it's coming out Tuesday. All very, very, very scary. And so now we had to take vaccines because the people, the companies said that we had to. Not there was no law. There was a OSHA, and everybody, and the CDC is now telling us it's the law where they don't have the right to do it. The ATF is doing it as well. So you can see how the power grab is going. This is why all of the X stuff is coming out today. All of the shills got their 4 a.m. talking points, and now they're pumping it all out in the internet. This, that, and the other. And so that's what's going on. That's what's really going on, my friends. So I hope you like this video. I hope you like this video half as much as I love making them. If you liked it, please give a thumbs up. Please help a brother out. Please subscribe. Please share. Get the message out. And I'll see you on the next Ultra Top Secret. This is the type of stuff that we check into. Covert ops, sweat work, sadly, and other things like that. So I hope this has illuminated you, and we will see you on the next Ultra Top Secret.